What's my idea? The essential thesis of my idea. Podcasts. You know those audio logs that everyone seems obsessed with, that there seem to be an unlimited supply of? Well, I have elected to throw myself into this ever-expanding pile in an attempt to present a specific topic that I believe would interest and entice a wide variety of people. My main focus for the podcast is to center it around Greek mythology and the tales of gods and man and heroes that seem to somehow still resonate with people and still capture the minds of people from all over the world. There is a reason that Greek mythology is one of the most talked about and widely read set of ancient texts and fables, because most of the lessons they teach and most of the fables they have are still cornerstones of our modern society, and we owe a lot to ancient Greek culture for helping to mould our modern-day society into what it is. Ideas of democracy, government, philosophy, they all perhaps didn't begin, but perhaps were most prominent in ancient Greece. And these ideas still hold relevance today and have helped shape us. This is why I believe it's interesting to revisit it from a modern perspective. And moving on to Greek mythology, which is my thesis. These myths and legends, they've been around for thousands of years. So it's time to ask the question, is there a lesson in these legends? And to ask people from all walks of life to tell us their personal favourite myth and legend, and discuss its modern influence, as well as any cultural significance or relevance it still has to this day. And this brings me to the unique selling point of the podcast. It is a comparison and discussion surrounding how we in the modern day are affected by these fables, whether they still hold relevance, and how they've helped to shape the modern world, the way we view the world surrounding us. So essentially, this podcast will not be a discussion of the stories per se, but more the after effects of the stories, the way it has affected both society then and the way we have taken its influence into our society now. And now I move away from the mythology side of things onto the practical side of things, finding an audience and marketing. In preparation for this podcast, I have done a wide variety of research, and a large amount of my research has covered the potential audience for my podcast. After some primary research and looking into some databases for my secondary research, I came to the conclusion that two most likely listeners are the middle-aged between the ages of 30 and 40, students studying history 18 to 24. These two distinctly different groups, I believe, would have an interest in the subject matter of the podcast. However, the challenge comes in making it enjoyable for both parties. This is where the melding style comes in. The podcast will have two segments, two hosts, and each will have their own interview with the guest before the final segment that brings all three parties together, and they discuss the episode, beliefs, opinions that may be conflicting. This, I believe, allows each host to be more catered to, and they can more cater towards the different age demographics, while still feeling concise and still feeling cohesive as a whole, and really rounding it all back together. So, in conclusion, I believe that this podcast has potential to reach a wide variety of people. It may seem to be a niche subject without much interest. However, we believe, based on our research and based on personal experience, that there are enough people with at least a passing interest in Greek mythology to keep engaged with the podcast. And we predict a wide variety of people listening to the podcast. I've laid out my reasons for this on the previous pages. Despite this, we understand the difficulties that can come with the creation of a piece of media, particularly weekly live media. However, we are optimistic about the future of this podcast series, and we hope we can rely on your support. Thank you.